this carbon marketing agenda. And so we have a Carbon Market Office, a secretariat that is established and hosted by the EPA under the auspices of the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation. We've been able to compile a list of project readiness for matchmaking, and so I do encourage you to visit cmo.epa.gov.gh for more information on this. There have been attempts to do capacity building programs, and this has been in part stalled by funding. So from here, we'll be looking at funding sources to get the implementation of all that. Recently, we had visits from the board of CLIC Foundation, and then again, 2 technical visits by our partners, all in readiness for the carbon market systems. Article 6.2 deals with the corporate approaches that we are aware of. And then the 6.4 mimics the Clean Development Mechanism, CDM, whilst aspects of voluntary carbon markets are also in there. So on this note, I urge the panelists to share the achievements and success factors for delivering on climate goals through the signing of the Ghana-Switzerland Agreement. I also urge you to come out with challenges, to highlight them, if there are any, and share with us, so we can all be at speed with whatever we are discussing. Thank you very much for your attention. I expect that you get a fruitful participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edie, for the EPA, Dr. Lawyer Kwabena Kukufu Henry. Yes, as he said, I would like to request Ms. Ursula Caroline Flossman Cross from CLIC to share with us 2 minutes only the experiences so far. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation and the kind introduction, Ms. Gloria. And just to start the discussion off about the experiences and the portfolio of the CLIC Foundation in Ghana. Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to give you a very brief background there. So let me see if that works. No. Turn it around. Okay, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much for the technical assistance on operating this slide. So the CLIC Foundation, as many of you might be aware, we are a private entity. We are established under this Swiss CO2 law to fulfill an obligation of the motor fuel importers to offset a part of the transport-related emissions, greenhouse gas emissions. So we are acting as an offsetting group on behalf of the motor fuel importers. We do this domestically already since about 10 years. What is new is that we also now work internationally, where we procure emission reductions in the form of ITMOs, internationally transferred mitigation outcomes, to support the Swiss government in fulfilling a part of its NDC target. Because the NDC target of Switzerland is very ambitious, and of course the majority is done domestically, but also a share is achieved internationally. And we are the entity mandated with this task to acquire about 20 million ITMOs by 2030. So it's a very ambitious target. And yeah, we are doing this by sourcing programs in partner countries and countries that have signed the so-called bilateral cooperation agreement with Switzerland. And here you see the countries, and Ghana is one of the currently 11 countries, and Ghana was actually among the very first. It was the second country to sign already back in November 2020 to sign this cooperation agreement with Switzerland. And Ghana is also really like a champion. So it's by far the largest portfolio of programs that we have in the partner countries. Ghana is as well a champion in other aspects in this development of the framework, but especially also we have really the largest portfolio here. And now I'll just really, really briefly run you through some of the programs we have. It was said in the opening remarks that the portfolio of the cooperation between the two countries is actually 18 programs, and some of those include also the UNDP programs, right, which was one of them was the very first one that was authorized last year. Another one is in the process right now, and these are just a snapshot of our portfolio. One is a cookstove program, transformative cookstove program that is operated by ACT Commodities and EnviroFit, and actually we also have the program owner in the room here. And it's very far advanced, and is working with locally manufactured stoves that are being distributed in rural areas of Ghana, and it's quite large, so it has the potential to achieve more than 2 million tons of emission reductions. The next one is a program that we already spoke about this morning, something we are also very proud of. It's green cooling, so it aims at introducing 150,000 green ACs in the residential and commercial sector in Ghana. So that means split ACs that are more energy efficient than traditional ones and that use a climate-friendly refrigerant, R290, which is very important there. GIZ and Perspectives are the implementing partners. Then the second last one is a biomass briquette program that use agricultural residues to turn them into briquettes for fuel switch, so an alternative sustainable fuel. And then we have also a sustainable waste management program that we are currently developing. So this is just kind of a snapshot to give you a flavor. I look forward to the rest of the discussion. So I think we'll just keep it here.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ursula Cross. Yes. We are so happy that you've had a lot of things to do from the north to the south. And my point is the cooking bit of it. I'm very happy there's something you're doing in the cook stove. At this point, I would like to acknowledge the Chief Director for the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, Dr. Patrick Nomo. He has been with us throughout since morning, and we do not take that for granted. Chief, you are welcome once again. We also acknowledge everyone here from agencies, from wherever you may be coming from. We do appreciate you so much. Now, I will have to call on Dr. Tutu Binefo to also do us a presentation, and my time has always been 2 minutes. Thank you. Second begins.
Thank you. I'll be very, very brief. There's only one slide that I want to show. This journey began in 2019. I had a call from my friend Peter, and if you can take me to the slide where there's a cycle. We began with a national inventory, and we ended up by doing an abatement analysis to understand the mitigation potential. All right, so what we did that backed the NDCs was not done in vacuum. It was informed by the inventory result, informed by the abatement cost analysis. And this was one of the things that happened. So this is to give you a summary of how we arrive at where we are right now. In 2020, the president of Ghana led a delegation, that before the COVID, a delegation to Bern to sign an MOU to express our intention to cooperate. And that led to about 8 months of drafting of the bilateral agreement, negotiations of the various provisions of the agreement before we concluded around October, closed the text. The text went through a government internal review process, consultations. It went through legal review. It went through cabinet approval, and then it went through parliamentary ratification. So that is the entire process. It took around 11, 12 months to get it done. And I wanted to highlight this because it appears that many countries had to or have to go through the process of creating a cooperative approach. And that cooperative approach ought to mimic this process. And now we are discussing whether or not that cooperative approach had to be called an agreement or a framework, and it ought to be authorized on the other side of this place. So it took us roughly 12 to 15 months to have a cooperative approach. And beyond that, we then had to come up with a national framework. So by the time that we were preparing the cooperative approach between Ghana and the Switzerland side, we didn't have a framework. All right. So then we followed it up with a framework. The framework then reflected our views or the policy expectations of how we want to operationalize the Article 6.2 and also the Decision 2 CMA3 of the Paris Agreement. So that's a very important document for us. And then the whole idea of establishing a national registry system. Because if you go into that decision, every country or party that is participating in Article 6.2 ought to have access to a registry, a national one or an international one or a private one. All right, so we had to establish that. And then beyond that, the Ghana government and the Switzerland government had to adopt a roadmap to ensure that we track the progress of achieving the bilateral agreement, and therefore that was signed between the ministers of both countries. Then we established a joint committee that meets every fortnight to discuss issues that is being encountered by developers. So issues on FNRB, issues on authorizations, issues on additionality, all those issues are discussed by the technical group that is made up of BAFU and the EPA and the Ministry of Environment that meets every fortnight. Currently, as we speak, we are focusing on supporting program development on the ground. And as she said, it's from agriculture, that is rice production, to waste management, to clean cooking, and now to green coaling. And then also looking into electric mobility. So we are looking at almost all the opportunities that are across the economy. And that for me is a good template for any country that is interested in creating a cooperative approach. That is government to government. What we discussed earlier was the unilateral approach where there's no government to government engagement. So this for me is a good example, and that is leading to the ground level implementation. One experience that I think is very important is that you need to have stamina. You need to have a team that has a leader, all right? And you need a leader that would allow the team to work. Otherwise, I can assure you, it's difficult to give birth to a cooperative approach that will work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Benef. Well noted. We need to have a strong team, a strong leader that's going to allow us to work. And on this note, I would like to request one strong leader to also give us a brief statement. And my time has always been 2 minutes. Thank you, Dr. Pitaderi. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. And it is very exciting that after we have gone through this whole cycle, we are here today to discuss what we are doing with CLIC. Very exciting. But first, let me thank CLIC Foundation for a number of reasons. First and foremost, we were the guinea pigs. You know, it had never happened. Article 6 had never happened anywhere. And so a lot of uncertainty, and yet you agreed to work with us. And I think we must congratulate them and appreciate that trust that you had in us. Yeah. And I believe that we have pulled through and we have set a standard. I mean, we've set a template for others to follow, which I think is a great achievement. It's a very difficult one, but we work together. I mean, I remember sometimes having some of the negotiations in the night, you know. We had an opportunity to go to Switzerland. They came to Ghana. Your minister came to Ghana to follow up and ensure that we signed a roadmap just to ensure that things. So you were holding us to what we had agreed, and I think that has brought us far to where we are, and now we are now entering into other bilateral agreements. So thank you, CLIC. We look forward to further strengthening what we've done, and we can assure you that once we have started with you, we'll continue with you, and you will never be disappointed. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you so much. Once we started with you, we're going to end with you. And so this brings us to almost an inch of the end of this program. But then we would like to request if there are any groups, any person who would want to ask some question. I'm leaving 2 minutes room. Yes, so you do 30 seconds, another person does 30 seconds, then we move. Thank you so much, please.
Hello, Simon Pfluger from the Sustainable Finance Think Tank Climate and Company. Really quick, what we discussed before, the unilateral approaches. How can private companies use the legislation and the standard of this cooperative approach between Switzerland and Ghana, use this to create more legal certainty for this previously discussed unilateral approach? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What I like about the G to G is that if you read the cooperative approach, it does address 3 things. One, it provides the certainty and the clarity of how you can give birth to a cooperative approach. You can give birth to an ITMOS. Clearly, it's an end-to-end workflow from the beginning to the end on both sides. What is eligible, when to authorize, how to authorize, who to authorize, at what point, when to transfer, how to examine, and how to achieve a positive examination, and how to ensure recognition, and how to apply corresponding adjustment. All those legal requirements are clearly articulated in that. For me, that is a very important document. The next one that is also very important is about the enforcement part. Who at where does what? So typically, private sector has, and that is what they want, because they want to see certainty. And therefore, in my view, the bilateral agreement provides us with the certainty and coupled with the national frameworks. Recall that it is a 3-tier process. Article 6, national framework, bilateral agreement, and project implementation. And they ought to be all in sync. And that is what I think the private sector wants.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much for that answer. And just to add on it, so how the private sector in our case, where we work under this bilateral framework, can engage is the bilateral framework really sets the rules, the standards, the high standards, respect for human rights, environmental integrity, contribution to sustainable development, but as well the procedural steps, and as Anya said, the corresponding adjustments. So that is clarified under the bilateral agreement. And then the national frameworks of both Ghana in this case, but in general the host countries, as well as Switzerland, they provide for the eligibility, for the clarity of which types of activities the private sector can engage. Then we are below this, basically, in the commercial level. So we are just the compliance buyer. We are the regulee. We work under this level, but at this commercial level, we do engage with the private sector. These program owners that I had shown before, we sign a offtake agreement with them. An offtake agreement, a purchase agreement for the emission reductions that are occurring. And we buy them every year after they have been monitored and verified. And the whole program is authorized by both the host country and Switzerland, and that also gives enough certainty for the program owner as well as for investors that those purchases can later then really occur. I hope that.
Thank you, Ms. Esla. Yes. This is where we draw the curtain. It has been an engaging, very exciting, a very sweet relationship between Ghana and Switzerland, and we look forward to more meaningful relationships going forward. We acknowledge Dr. Peter Derry, Dr. Tutu Benefo, and Ms. Esla. We also acknowledge all of you, and we appreciate you for being here. We are so grateful. May God bless us all. 2 seconds of photo, please. 2 seconds of photo. Yes.